So in the last video, we built the hanging platform that's going to be attached to the bridge. Now we're going to look into building the sides of the bridge. Right? So here's one from the parts. We're going to be building these outer pieces. And then eventually we will attach them to an assembly jig and do the cross members and build the rest of it. So we're going to build the sides, and I've settled on, I really like to use a 3D jig even for this. So I like working on full-size graph paper or graph paper that can be show everything to scale. I have cardboard underneath this, so I can put push pins into this surface. But as I'll talk about, I've moved away from using push pins for this, but it's certainly a reasonable thing to do. Okay, so let's talk about the sides. In general, we're building two identical sides. Each side has two pieces that form this. Each side here, there'll be one primary tension member at the bottom, and then a piece at the top. So what I like to do is we know the angle of this bridge, so let's just record this. I'll draw it a little bit bigger. Okay, so we know this angle here is 35 degrees. For the legs, we're going to use, I like to use 3/32 inch thick, and here I'm using 8 millimeter, and the normalized size is 30.5 centimeters. And that's what these are pre-cut to here, and I've already recorded how much they weigh. So I like to record that. So this is like 1.02 grams, 1.07, 1.02, 1.02. So we'll just record the original masses. And then I also like to record what their cut down masses are. So we can just choose two of them. We'll save two of those. Oh, one quick note on the jig. So I'll include the STLs in the video description. My printer's not big enough to print this as one giant piece, so you have to print a left side and a right side. And then this mess here is, I like to use this PL3 glue to glue them together, and that works really well. And the reason this is notched is to help be able to glue these pieces together this way, and then also when it comes time to gluing the top piece on, it allows something to help make it square, and I'll show how that works in a minute. Okay, so first we can cut our legs to 35 degrees. We'll set the miter cutter at 35, as close as possible. And I like to do all four at once, just so they're exactly the same. Okay, and now we can see that these guys, so also with this jig, I've added a little piece of balsa here at both ends. So the bottom part of this leg, so when we fit this in here and hold it up snug against this, these sides have to be above the printed thickness to be able to glue the tension member on. So you have to print the jig thin enough that it's thinner than you know, your thickness of the wood with a, you know, an extender. So it's a little trial and error, and you can mess around with the thickness of this print depending on how thick of legs you want to use. But as you can see, this angle now fits very nicely in here, but they're too long still. So what I like to do is just mark. So this is going to be at the top, somewhere around right at the center line. And because this is 35 degrees, we know this is 55. So now this piece fits on top perfectly. So now we'll just do that with the other pieces. And because this is symmetrical, we can essentially do them all on one side, and it should work out. And it's really not critical that these pieces actually touch at the top. You just want to get them close. Okay. So now we should have our actual masses. So I do like to record that. So 96, 100, that's probably this one. 95. 94. So you will notice that these are slightly less than the last bridge I did. So we might be a little lighter than this the last bridge, which is good. Okay, so now we can we can pick two, and instead of pinning, so you know it's perfectly okay, you know, to pin this up here against there. But what I found is that can leave a little dent in your wood, and every little imperfection might cause a trouble. So what I've turned to doing is just using my favorite blue paint tape again, and just tape this down, even directly to the paper, and it won't stick. So now that's firmly in place, and there's no dents in the wood. I like to leave this part you don't need to press that down into the paper. Okay, so these guys are ready to go. So next is the top piece. So this is, I believe this is still at 10 centimeters. So we only want it to be 5. You know, this is material for both. So let's record that. So this is 3/32 by 8 millimeter, basically the same material as the legs. And we want by 5 centimeters, and there's 2 of them. So that's this piece, and that's 0.29, 292.29 grams. But we want to cut this in half, basically. And I also like to mark the midway point for both pieces, and you'll see why in a minute. So at 2.5, just put a little mark there. And then we'll cut this in half. Save that one for the other side. Now this top piece is going to fit right in here. And the reason we mark the little dot in the middle is now we can easily align this in the center when it comes time to glue that. Actually, I think we are ready to glue this. So what I like to do is have this in place and mark on here where the surface area contacts. All right, so now you can see that's the contact area, and the idea is we're going to cover this entire surface with glue, because of course this is a very critical joint. So we can do that now. So it's good to work quickly here. You can transfer, usually it's like three or four globs of glue, and then you can just spread it around very evenly and quickly, and do the other side. And spread this around. And then as quickly and accurately as possible, put that in the center and hold this firmly in place for 10 seconds or so. Okay, and we'll be trimming up all this excess once it's done. All right, the last piece for the side is the tension member, and this is I like to use a safe choice is 1/16 by 1/32 bass. And on the, I would say on the lighter side of this 2-foot piece is about, 0.36 grams. We're going to cut it a little shorter. So we'll just cut these to the right length, or a little bit longer, because we're going to sand that later. We can cut the other one now too, based on this length. Okay. And I like to record these actual masses as well. We've got 0.28. 0.28. Okay, we'll save that one for the other side. Now the piece, now to attach this, you notice this jig has a nice little hole there to pass through so it can be flat. The design as I built it here has this up about 1 centimeter to make room for the backside cross member. I'll show that much later. But in general, I don't want it down at the bottom for this particular version of the design. So up 1 centimeter. But the technique is you can do these one at a time. You generally put it in the right place. You just put the glue in the spot. And then again, I like to use the pin to hold this in place, so you're not gluing your finger to this. And we can just hold this for 10 seconds or so. Okay. And now that's good. And now we do the other side, same way. Maybe 2. And just hold this in place for about 10 seconds. Okay. So now the rough work is done for this side, and it can be removed from the jig. So you can just peel back this tape, leave the ones that's attached to the jig, because we can reuse this for the next side. Sometimes a little glue gets up in there. Okay, so this is the roughly finished side. We'll just set that there. And now we basically do the same exact thing for the other side. Now we're done with this jig and platform, so we can set that aside. Okay, now we have our 2 completed sides before trimming them up and sanding them. Basically, we need to make these the top flat and this part flat, and we need to make sure these are trimmed off. So I like to, well, we do one at a time, obviously. Back to our Dremel tool. We now have a rotary sander attachment on the top. This thing is really handy for this type of work. Let's see if I can do this and have it so it's viewable. Okay. Let's see if we can. Okay, so this might be a little tricky with filming, but I like to sand these down with the rotary sander and then finish it with the sanding block. So let's see what we can do here. And then when sanding these parts, make sure you go so the sander is spinning this direction. So make sure you are sanding it this way so the rotary action is pushing the piece up against the other one and not trying to pop it off like that. That's pretty good. Now we can use a, oh, that's not quite done. And actually the top will be sanded more later in a different way, so don't worry about too much getting the top. But the sides, make sure they're nice and flat. Okay, that's pretty good. I would say this one is ready to go to the next step. So we'll set that aside and do the same thing with the other side. So now that we have our completed sides, one final thing I like to do is to record the actual mass of these completed sides, just as record keeping. And you know, you can see that it would be very difficult to weigh this on the scale because it doesn't fit very well. So one handy way to do that, hopefully we can see this, is you can put a cup in there and just hit the tare button, which zeroes it out. Now it'll measure anything that's inside only. Let's see. There we go. So 2.38 grams. And hopefully, if things are good, they're very similar to each other. So 2.30. So that's not bad. So that looks like maybe 0.3 grams lighter than the last build. So just from the sides alone, we're saving 0.3 grams compared to the prior build. Okay, so the sides are complete. In the next video, we'll look at the first part of the assembly process and connect up all the cross members, or most of the cross members. So stay tuned for that.